Hey everyone, Downton Abbey, the grand finale, isn't just a farewell to fans as the Crawley family steps into the next phase of their lives. It is the close of an era told through some small stories that are designed to have a really big impact. It's got grand designs for sure, but does the film deliver the ending that fans have been waiting for all these years? That's what we're going to break down here. But first, while you're here, please do give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and share your thoughts about Downton Abbey in the comments below. So, Downton Abbey, the grand finale, is set in 1930 as the Crawleys face the world that is reeling from both the financial impacts of the Great Depression as well as shifting social expectations that are beginning to reset social norms by kind of equalizing the classes. Lower classes are rising, upper classes are lowering, and this all happens during the summer season in London. Lady Mary's divorce is splashed across the newspapers as public gossip, sparking scandal at a time when such things just were unthinkable for the upper class. She returns home to navigate her damaged reputation and the cold judgment of her neighbors who've honestly known her all her life, and suddenly they've turned on her. Cora's brother Harold arrives from America, bringing more financial troubles and an advisor named Gus Sambrook, whose new connection to Mary really complicates matters. Meanwhile, Robert wrestles with stepping back from his role as head of the estate and passing more responsibility to Mary, especially in a time when her reputation is being damaged. And all of this happens while the servants face their own transitions as retirements loom. On the fringes of the Crawley family, Daisy and Tom and Isobel, they all push back against the traditions within society that we see changing. It highlights how social classes themselves really are starting to shift. At its heart, this film, it's about adaptation and change. As some characters kind of move forward in their lives, while others are having to take that step back, and what each person is willing to sacrifice as part of that social transition. What stands out is how beautifully crafted this film is as a period piece. And I mean, beautifully crafted. The pacing at times feels maybe a little bit slow, despite the story juggling several big and small events, these interactions and complications. There's so much going on, but you still get this sense of maybe it's a little bit slow here or there. But I think that's all part of the plan. They're giving this to us to really kind of immerse into one last time. You can sense the weight of nearly every main character and their histories being honored as Downton Abbey brings everyone back into the fold to say goodbye. Some moments feel a bit indulgent, sure, and others are a bit too brief or overly emotional. But most of the time, these directorial choices actually work, and it allows the goodbyes room to breathe while also giving us time to sit with these characters before they go. One of the strongest parts of the grand finale is its character development. After years of storytelling, the film shows how each character is kind of stepping into the future and how those changes affect them. Lady Edith has completed her transformation from that timid younger sister into a confident woman who is not to be underestimated, especially where her family is concerned. She is sure of herself, aware of her strength, and she knows how to use her place in society. She has earned that authority, and you can see it clearly in one of the scenes that I can't share because it would be a spoiler. At the center of the story is Lady Mary. Her transformation is the heart of the film, and her arc feels unusually mature and elegant for modern storytelling. She is aging, but she's also rising in power as the heir to Downton. Her personal life, however, pits her against the very social structure that has defined and supported her. The way the film handles her divorce thrusts her into public disgrace at a time when that kind of scandal was devastating for a woman of her standing. This gives her a whole new set of challenges that tests her beliefs and her courage, and it reveals the growing gap between the young and the old and what they're willing to accept and what they're not and what they're going to change. Rather than letting the scandal define her, Mary learns to live under constant judgment without losing herself. What makes Mary's arc so relevant, really, for today's audience is that it doesn't ignore the weight of her past. She carries the echoes of earlier losses and triumphs. Yet here she finds the strength to move forward. For all the romance and scandal, her story is ultimately about accepting herself in a changing world and doing that despite what anyone else thinks. And by doing that step, she shows us how a woman seizes her own power to reshape her identity. And in doing so, shows how individual choices ripple through society itself. The grand finale succeeds because it gives Mary the room to complete her evolution into a wise and emotionally scarred woman who has learned how to lean on and how to protect those she trusts. While Mary's arc anchors the film, it also reflects those broader themes of generational change as the old guard yields to the younger generation, stepping into new roles. The grand finale highlights this shift through a series of character pairs, including Mary inheriting leadership from Robert, Parker taking over the butler job from Carson, and Mrs. Patmore preparing to retire and handing the kitchen to Daisy. We see the tension of letting go most clearly in Robert and Carson. For both men, they identify with their power structure in their role. And stepping aside really feels like surrendering a part of who they are, and they don't know how to do that. Carson, in particular, really cannot resist returning to Downton to check in as though leaving would kind of erase his purpose in the world. Mrs. Patmore's story, however, takes this gentler path. She embraces her marriage and the future away from the estate, showing this readiness that contrasts with the men's reluctance to go. Together, these transitions really mirror the broader societal upheaval of the 1930s depression, the fading of the old traditions and the rise of industrial modernity all kind of unsettle the balance of class and power. And we see that happening here. We see it all coming together. The film also captures that uncertainty through its characters' personal farewells. In the quiet moments of Robert, Carson, and Mrs. Patmore, and how they step back, you can feel the old world kind of slipping away and the new one that is struggling to take shape take its place. The film doesn't rely on story and dialogue alone to show a world in transition. The art and cinematography, they are visually striking. And the score, the music, it feels rooted in the 1900s while carrying those brighter tones, that more energetic style of the decades ahead. The camera captures these sweeping countryside views, the grand halls of Downton, and the intimate glow of candlelight dinners, as well as the views of electric streetcars in London and standard modern conveniences like movie houses or typewriters, creating this contrast that shows how the old and the new are starting to collide and overlap. From the fabrics of the dresses to the more modern designs of the jewelry, every detail feels deliberate. Even the portrait of Violet Crawley hanging on the wall reinforces the sense of legacy hanging over the younger generation. It's clear the crew has carefully ensured that every detail, every shot, every costume, every musical cue supports the theme of farewell and transition. The music mostly complements the period and deepens the story's emotional weight. Though I gotta say, at times it kind of drifts into being a little too cutesy for the drama, giving kind of a made for TV feel for a few of the scenes. These moments usually appear in exchanges between Mary and Edith or Mary and Cora, Where their knowing smiles kind of tip into campiness, still, those instances are brief and not really enough to pull you out of the story. And this story is one that steps firmly into the age of modernity, with social class and wealth, education and gender roles are all in the process of shifting. Class stratification is evolving from being just background detail. And that really is a change that shapes every interaction in this film. And we see it in how Americans are regarded by the English and how divorce alters someone's standing and how estates struggle for funds, even for the rich, how neighbors gossip about each other behind closed doors and on the front page of the newspaper. We see how society judges people. It's always been that way. It's still that way. And we can see it in our own social media feeds today. The setting captures these changes beautifully. 1930s England, London society, country houses, grand estates, servant halls, they're all rendered in these tangible and relatable details that today's audience can recognize. Even across time, from the Crawley's era to our own, the fashions, jewels, fabrics, they feel like they are part of that declining age that has transitioned from old traditions into these new modern ways of doing things. And it shows us what real power looks like. And I've got to say, like, one of the things that I actually really loved about this film is we talk a lot about female power in films and girl bosses and all of that. But you see here with Lady Mary, like, she's not a girl boss. She is a woman with power. And she leans into her power, not through might and fists and fighting, but by being who she is, by knowing who she is, and by showing us all these things about her and revealing these moments that are shaping her into the person that we see at the end of the film. And you know what? This film really does end on a hopeful note, with characters stepping into new roles and new futures that seem full of possibility. Still, we can't help but to see their hope through the lens of history. Less than a decade after the events of Downton Abbey, the grand finale, World War II will begin, and London will be bombed during the Blitz by the Luftwaffe, and England will come under relentless attack by the Nazis. The Crawleys' lives will change in ways that they cannot yet imagine, yet have no idea that this is coming. But we do. We know it's coming. That knowledge gives this farewell its poignancy, reminding us that while their story may be complete on screen, history will not leave them untouched. So, is Downton Abbey the grand finale ticket worthy? If you followed this story, if you're a fan who has invested in these characters over the years, or if you enjoy period pieces that feel authentic, then yeah, it's worth the price of admission. It delivers a sense of completion that you'd hope for without tying everything up in this neat, sappy bow. The storylines, they all come together. Each character is given a moment, and the entire ensemble is honored in a way that feels earned. If you're not into period dramas or never connected with Downton Abbey or any of these characters, this film is not going to change your mind. You're not going to enjoy it. Not every film is for everyone. And this is one of those films where you're going to know if it's for you or not. And if it's for you, you're going to love it. And one thing I loved actually when I was leaving the theater was that my theater was full, and it was full of people of all ages, all genders, all everything. Like, people were there to see this movie together. And that's not something you'd expect when you see a movie like Superman or one of these new superhero releases. And what you get from Downton Abbey really, it shows that we need films for everyone. We need diverse films. And I don't mean racially diverse. I mean diverse in themes and topics and genres. Not everyone's going to love this film, But for many people in that theater, it was their first time back to the movies in years. I know because I heard more than one person say so as they were walking out. And that says something really important to me about the power of movies. And what we need are films that speak to us, stories that help us understand where we come from, what our society has been, and what we might be stepping into. And as I left the theater, the lobby was full of people of every age lining up for all kinds of films. Some were there for Downton Abbey, others were there for The Conjuring or The Long Walk or Demon Slayer. Everyone was laughing and smiling and enjoying the experience of being at the movies together. That's what I've missed. That's what I want. Stories like these bring us together and they remind us why it all matters, why we matter so much to each other. So, the grand finale. What did you think of it? Are you a Downton Abbey fan? Will you go see this in theaters? Are you waiting for streaming? Thanks so much for being here, you guys. Please give this review a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with a friend. And while you're here, why not check out one of these other reviews? And I will see you all again soon. In the meantime, happy viewing. Bye for now.